Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Coram and Shreve here with a breakdown of the action in today's session, Thursday, September 28th, where we're now working on day 2 of a rally attempt, Ken. And underneath the surface, it does seem like there were at least a couple of compelling price movers.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Nasdaq making a pretty good stand so far at this round number of 13,000. We've been talking about it as a major support level, and it firmed up pretty well there yesterday, and extended gains today. So we'll take it. And in terms of stocks to watch in the tech sector, there's not a lot of good ones in the tech space these days. But let's take a look at Synopsys, which is SNPS, also a freight transportation services firm, XPO. And finally, in the investment management group, Blackstone, BX.
Okay, we'll get to those 3 stocks, but first let's take a look at the major indexes today. The Nasdaq up 0.8% by sessions close, backed off intraday highs a little bit, but still a pretty decent close. Ken, the S&P up 0.6%, the Dow up almost 0.4%, and small caps, the Russell 2000 also having a pretty decent day today, up 0.8%. Of course, very damaged coming into today. But we now do have a small string of gains that we are working on. It's early days, but a rally attempt is underway.
Yeah, it is. And, yesterday, again, it was a pretty impressive performance. We saw bond yields spike, we saw the dollar spike, and yet indexes rallied off lows and, closed near highs yesterday. And there was some volume behind yesterday's move, too, on the first day of the rally attempt. Today, it was a tough volume comparison. It looks like we're going to probably come in a little bit lighter than yesterday. But again, another close near highs. Seems a tough chore for the NASDAQ to get advancers beating decliners by more than 2 to 1 these days. It was another just day of so-so breadth on the Nasdaq. Couldn't even get to 2 to 1 positive, despite pretty good percentage gain. So the breadth has been a story for a while, just been mostly disappointing. But 2 days of closes near highs here. It's a good sign. But you can see the Nasdaq is still stuck below all of these short-term moving averages, the 50-day moving average. So as it rallies up into those levels, if it gets that far, it's likely might see some selling pressure. They could get turned away. So it'll be important just to see some volume if the Nasdaq is going to continue to rise here. Would be good to see some conviction behind the buying.
Absolutely. And tomorrow marks the last day of trade for the month of September, right, Ken? So maybe
Yeah.
once we turn the page to October, maybe our market luck will change a little bit, at least if any historical seasonality has anything to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, tomorrow's going to be interesting because at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, we're going to get the personal income and spending report, which is, fine. We'll see what incomes did in August. But inside that report is going to be the personal consumption expenditures index, a month over month and year over year basis. So core PCE, which excludes food and energy, still where we're seeing a lot of high prices, that is expected to fall slightly to 3.9%. But the Fed really wants to see that at 2%. So this whole narrative of inflation, taking a while to come down, it is coming down, but at a somewhat slow pace. So maybe we get some good news tomorrow. Again, year over year, core price is expected to be 3.9%. That would be down slightly from the prior months of reading of 4.2%. So inflation data, the end of the third quarter, the end of September, could see some volatility.
Yeah, we definitely could. So we'll have to see what tomorrow brings and we'll be ready for it. Let's also take a look at the S&P 500. Ken trying to also reverse its trend, but a lot of work to do, even though that work could take place over the next couple of days or weeks, depending on how it unfolds.
Yeah, S&P 500 making a key test of a round number as well. Now for the Nasdaq, it's 13,000. For the S&P 500, it's 4,200, which happens to coincide right with that long-term support level, the 200-day moving average. So support is holding so far, and again, I think tomorrow could be an interesting day. Got to hold on to your hats type of day, but day 2 of a rally attempt for the S&P 500 as well today.
Mhm. And here's a look at the Dow. So blue chips a little bit more damaged here, fell below that 200-day line. So that's the first resistance level that we need it to clear. And we're also dealing with a round number here too.
Yeah, yeah. So this is just a case of what kind of overhead supply looks like when an index comes down sharply and breaks through support levels. As it tries to rally back, it just invariably runs into, runs into selling pressure. So it's probably got close to that 200-day moving average today, closed off highs. So it may try to retake it in coming days, but then it's going to have to get through those short-term moving averages just over 34,000. So you can see for the Dow really to break out of its downtrend, that little trend line that you broke in there, it's going to have to rally quite a bit. So the Dow, all the indexes still look challenged to me at this point, but
Right.
perhaps the Dow the most here.
Well, we'll have to see in coming sessions if the message from the market is challenge accepted or not.
That's right.
And let's take a look at the Russell. Clearly, a lot of damage for small caps. 1800 proved to be a level the small caps couldn't hold. So that's step one to get back above, and a lot of work that this needs to do before it can even get close to that 200-day. It's
Uh,
currently almost 3% below that level. So, this is another thing too where there is a lot of work, but it could unfold over the next couple of sessions to couple of weeks if we can continue to have that upside momentum.
Yeah, exactly. And so the Dow is definitely a weaker index than the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq, and the Russell 2000 here is actually weaker than the Dow. That was a really bad break of the 200-day moving average a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know if I recall a market where so many round numbers are in play.
I
We
know
talk
it
about
is
the
pretty
Nasdaq and the
interesting.
S&P 500 and the Russell 2000. And with 1800, and then you've got Nvidia around 400. So they're just round numbers everywhere. But
They're showing everywhere, showing up
exactly.
everywhere. Yeah. Yeah. Well, they are levels of interest, psychological levels. They aren't guarantees that we are going to find support or hit resistance, but it's pretty interesting that those levels do keep cropping up. And you mentioned the 10-year yield, so let's go there briefly. Clearly, that's been a wet blanket on the equity market for the month of September, but a little bit of relief today by session's close, just a little
Yeah,
bit.
a little bit, and you can see it. It raced over that 4 or 6 level, and then money started flowing into bonds, and then the yields backed off. So you can see 4 out of 5 up days in a row. A pretty explosive move here. Again, we're talking about when you're just looking at stochastics and oscillators. You're looking at a bond market that is extremely oversold here. So it's at a point you look at a ETF like the TLT. You can see how oversold it is, and it's been oversold for a while. But that was a nice reversal higher with some quite a bit of volume today. So
Yeah.
we'll see if that is going to do anything to kind of halt this sharp rise of bond yields. The market could use a break from it for sure. But if we do, get into a time where yields start to back off highs and consolidate, and maybe the U.S. dollar does that as well. And you can see the U.S. dollar very overbought here. So we get weakness in those two things. That could be a bid for stocks and maybe present a nice little tradable rally, Santa Claus type rally. We'll have to see.
We will. And energy, that has been in focus this week. XLE adding a fractional gain to a nice move that it made on Wednesday, up 2.5%. Looking actionable. A lot of names in this group have been worth watching as of late.
Yeah, and there was actually a lot of selling I saw in a lot of oil and gas stocks after really strong days yesterday. I didn't see really any sell signals today, but a lot of oil and gas stocks weren't able to keep up with the market. Of course, they soared yesterday, but the XLE held in pretty good here. You can see it was up, less than 0.1%, but held on to a good chunk of that gain yesterday, which to me looked like a buy signal.
Mm-hmm. And now let's take a look at SNPS. This is Synopsys in the software sector. A nice trend line breakout right around some converging moving averages. And we did get above average volume on this trade here today.
Yeah, pretty impressive. And listen, it's a tech stock selling at 45 times earnings, but it gets a premium valuation. You can see the growth prospects for this year or fiscal 23 that ends in October, or that ended or ends in October, and then fiscal 2024, you got 20% plus growth there. So technically, this was a bullish move today above short-term moving averages. It is interesting to see more and more stocks kind of giving buy signals, and I would say Synopsys was a buy signal too for traders that want to be buying stocks when the market's in a correction. There's obviously risk doing that, but back to the daily chart, this was just a good heavy volume move above short-term support levels. So Synopsys still showing like it wants to be a leading stock in the technology sector.
Right. And this isn't a breakout. This is a slightly early entry. But if you have a stock that is a stable earnings grower with a strong earnings growth rate, that definitely puts it in that long term leader status, as we can see here by the monthly chart. So buying these kinds of stocks closer to the moving averages is something that is worth considering. And we're getting that signal here today, as you mentioned.
Yeah, definitely. And you can see, I mean, it's not a stock to me that looks like it's under, massive accumulation here. Again, there was some good, it's hard to find stocks moving in above average volume and volume higher than the prior session today, but Synopsys did both. So technically it was a bullish move, and I think it's a name still worth watching here. The accumulation distribution rating of D minus is, I mean, like to see that improve, and that will improve if you continue to see higher volume gains like it had today.
Right, no doubt. XPO is another stock on our radar, and look at that RS line blue dot underscoring that relative outperformance versus the S&P 500 as it works on the side of a flat base, some volume coming into the stock the last couple of days. So this arguably actionable today as well.
Yeah, in the transportation sector, and we still see FedEx acting pretty well in the transport sector too. So, you look at the transports themselves; it's not a great looking sector, but you have some stocks kind of flexing their muscle here. So XPO, again, another early buy signal here. It was really an explosive move. It held that strong gain for most of the day. It rallied yesterday in higher volume, slightly above average, and then volume even picked up the pace again today. So let's take a look at the weekly chart, because it's really a nice setup here. It's kind of right at the top of. It doesn't look like a flat base, but because it corrected less than. Oh no, it's a consolidation, so it pulled back about 16% off its highs, so it doesn't quite qualify as a flat base, but near the top of a consolidation here, and it's still a tricky, not a great environment for technical breakouts, but again, stocks showing relative strength, finding support where they should, and especially with a relative strength line shooting into new high ground, you want to pay attention to these stocks.
Yeah, no doubt. And last but not least on our list is ticker BX. This is Blackstone pulling back to its 10-week line after a breakout. The RS line and RS rating are both still holding up. What stands out to me is the upside volume that came into this stock a couple of weeks ago and a relatively orderly pullback. Maybe the decline could have happened over a couple more trading days, but we didn't get too much downside volume on that pullback.
Yeah, your eyes are getting trained well here, Ellie. I like that. But yeah, Blackstone is, the recent decline came in light volume, so that's a good sign. It was kind of a precipitous drop, but look at where the stock found support, right at the 50-day moving average. Now, it's finding support in bone dry volume, so and volume actually a little bit lighter than when the stock was falling. So that's maybe a little bit of a yellow flag, but again, a nice test of support today. Financial sector is still very, difficult. You look at XLF, very liquid, financial ETF, and that is still on a sharp downtrend below all of its moving averages. But in this investment management group, name like Blackstone, I like how it's kind of retesting a buy area. So you're not buying a breakout here. You're buying a stock that's pulled back in light volume and is just kind of retesting that 108.77 pivot. So see if support holds here, and you got that accumulation distribution rating of A plus. You don't see many stocks in that boat these days, but that is due to those higher volume gains when it initially broke out. So I think Blackstone looks good here too.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Ken. And thanks to everyone so much for tuning in. We will be back with more tomorrow morning IBD Live, where we will be joined by special guest Charles Harris, portfolio manager at O'Neill Global Advisors. Really looking forward to hearing what he has to say about the current rally attempt, stocks he's watching, and where he thinks we could be headed from here. So make sure you tune in, investors.com/IBD Live for all the details on that. The team will see you there tomorrow. And you can also catch me on Yahoo Finance at 10:40 a.m. Eastern, talking about where we're at in the overall market and a stock or two for your radar. So I will see you then, and not on IBD Live, but I know it's going to be a great show. So lots of opportunities to get IBD insights tomorrow, including, of course, at the close with Ed and myself to wrap up the week. So we will see you there. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll be back tomorrow.